The Paris metro vibrated under the metallic noise of the rails. It was a winter evening, icy outside but stifling inside the carriage. The passengers pressed together, squeezed against one another, each locked in their own world, their phone or their thoughts. In the middle of this indifferent crowd was Camille, a young student. She had earphones in her ears, but her music could not cover the discomfort she felt. A man, sitting across from her, was staring at her insistently. That heavy, disturbing look made her shrink a little more into her seat. At first, she tried to ignore him. She turned her head, fixed her gaze on the window where blurred lights of the tunnel reflected. But the more she ignored him, the more he seemed to enjoy her unease. His eyes never left her face. Then he stood up, slowly, too slowly, as if savoring the tension he provoked. He approached, standing right above her. Camille felt her heart beating faster. Her fingers tightened on the strap of her bag. "So, Miss One doesn't say good evening?" His voice was honeyed, but his tone betrayed an underlying threat. Camille lowered her eyes, hoping he would get tired, but he continued. "What? You are too proud? You think you're better than me?" No one around moved. The passengers stared at their screen, pretended to be absorbed by a book, or looked elsewhere, toward the ceiling. Silence reigned, oppressive. The man crouched down, bringing his face close to hers. "Come on, smile a little. I spoke nicely to you, didn't I?" Camille felt a lump forming in her throat. She wanted to get up, to flee, but her legs refused to move. Fear paralyzed her. Her gaze slid around her, pleading silently for help. But no one dared. The metro slowed, stopping at a station. Passengers got on, others got off, but no one intervened. Those who entered barely noticed the scene, and those who saw looked away immediately. The man, encouraged by this complicit silence, went further. He stretched out his hand, caressing a lock of Camille's hair. She recoiled sharply, tears in her eyes. "Don't touch me," she whispered in a broken voice. A deep laugh escaped his throat. "Or else what? No one will defend you. You see, everyone doesn't care." And he was right. In this crowded carriage, she was alone. Alone against him, alone against fear, alone facing a silent crowd. Then, at the moment when Camille felt ready to scream, a voice resounded. A firm, clear voice that broke the silence like lightning splits the night. "Enough!" The whole carriage turned. A young man, tall, simply dressed in a dark coat, had stood up, his eyes fixed on the aggressor, without trembling. He didn't shout, didn't get angry. He had simply spoken those two words with an authority that chilled the air. The man turned his head, surprised. "What? You're talking to me?" The young stranger stepped forward one step. "Yes, to you. Leave her alone." Camille felt her heart leap in her chest. For the first time since the beginning, she was no longer alone. The aggressor sneered. Or else what? "You think you're going to play the hero in front of everyone." The young man did not back down. "You've already talked enough. Step away." The silence thickened in the carriage. The passengers, who until then had looked away, now observed the scene with curiosity mixed with fear. Some discreetly took out their phones, ready to film. The man frowned, annoyed at losing control. "Who are you, you?" "Her boyfriend." "No," replied the stranger calmly. "I'm just someone who doesn't accept this." The words resounded, simple but heavy with meaning. Camille felt a strange warmth invade her, a kind of relief mixed with deep gratitude. The aggressor hesitated for a moment. His gaze passed from Camille to the stranger, then to the other passengers who, this time, could no longer pretend not to see. An invisible pressure weighed on him. The metro slowed again. The doors opened. After a moment of tension, the man stepped back, let out a curse, and suddenly exited onto the platform. The door closed. Silence again, but a different silence. A silence of relief. Camille breathed deeply, her hands still trembling. She raised her eyes toward the stranger, searching for her words. "Thank you," she murmured. He simply nodded. "You don't have to thank me. You needed help. I was there." His tone was sober, but his eyes expressed a kindness that contrasted with the coldness of the carriage. Camille felt tears flow, but they were no longer tears of fear. They were a mixture of relief, gratitude, and a strange hope. For the first time that evening, she no longer felt invisible. The metro resumed its course, gently swaying the passengers from side to side. Camille, still trembling, remained seated, her eyes fixed on a man who had just offended her. She could hardly believe what had just happened. Everything had unfolded so quickly, and yet every second seemed etched into her memory. The stranger, still standing by her side, first made sure the aggressor wasn't returning to platform. When the train left the station, he finally turned to her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Camille nodded, though the truth was far more complicated. No, she wasn't really okay. Her hands were still shaking, her throat was dry, and a deep fear lingered inside her, but she didn't want to appear weak. "Yes, well, I think so." He watched her for a moment before sitting beside her. He didn't stare, he didn't judge. He simply sat there, a calm presence in the middle of her inner chaos. "You don't need to feel ashamed," he said after a silence. "What you felt is normal, and none of this was your fault." Those words brought tears to Camille's eyes. For the past few minutes, she had been blaming herself for not speaking up sooner, for not standing, for letting fear paralyze her. But hearing him say that eased her heart just a little. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you for stepping in." Nobody else. She glanced around at the other passengers, still avoided her eyes. Nobody else moved. The stranger followed her gaze and shrugged slightly. "You know, a lot of people are afraid. Sometimes they just don't know what to do, so they look away. But that doesn't always mean they don't care." Camille gave a sad smile. "Maybe, but you weren't afraid?" He let out a quiet laugh. "Of course I was. Everyone's afraid in situations like that. But the real question isn't whether you're afraid. It's what you decide to do despite the fear." His words echoed inside her like a truth she had always known but never put into words. For the first time, she really looked at him. His features were simple, his face marked with fatigue of a long day, but his eyes shone with a rare sincerity. Silence returned, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was soft, almost comforting. After a few minutes, Camille took a deep breath. "My name's Camille," she said, timidly offering her hand. He shook it with a kind firmness. "Nice to meet you, Camille. I'm Julian." For the first time that evening, a genuine smile lit up the young woman's face. The metro carried on. Some passengers left, others boarded. Slowly, the atmosphere returned to its usual ordinariness, as if nothing special had happened. But for Camille, everything was different. She found herself talking to Julian, at first shyly, then more naturally. Maybe it was the adrenaline, maybe just a need to feel safe, but she told him about her day, her studies, even small, insignificant details. And he listened, truly listened, not distractedly like most people, but with real attention. "You know," she said at one point, "I take this metro every day, but I don't think I'll ever see it the same way again." Julian nodded. "Tonight showed you something. That danger can appear anywhere, but also that not everyone is indifferent." Camille reflected on those words. He was right. If he hadn't been there, she might have stepped off this train with a darker view of the world. But thanks to him, she could still believe there were people capable of courage, people willing to act. As the train neared the station where Camille had to get off, she felt a small wave of anxiety, leaving this moment behind, stepping out into the night alone. But Julian seemed to sense her unease. "You're getting off at the next stop?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes. I'm heading to the station after, but I can walk part of the way with you, if you'd like." Camille hesitated for just a second, then smiled. "I'd like that." When the doors opened, they stepped out together. The winter air immediately wrapped around them. But for the first time in a long while, Camille didn't shiver. She wasn't alone anymore. They walked side by side through the lamplit streets. The silence of the city contrasted with the turmoil of the metro. Every step brought her closer to home, yet she wished this moment wouldn't end too soon. "You know," she said with a small laugh, "I think I'll never forget tonight. Julian smiled back. Me neither. A quiet, gentle silence settled between them, and deep down, Camille felt a certainty take root. Sometimes, the worst moments in life can also reveal the most beautiful encounters.